Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Garrett and Matt are here, and we are now solidly a full week into 2024. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about interest rates, which I know everybody's watching like a hawk right now. But before we get into that, guys, if you want to learn more about what Garrett and I do on a regular basis, head over to ninjacoaching.com or go to ninjaselling.com and click on the coaching button, which is up there at the top. We do personal one-on-one coaching with agents to help them thrive through their year. So if it's something that you wanted to add into your world, having a coach in your corner, you can reach out to us. You can also join our Facebook community for the podcast. Just search for the Ninja Selling Podcast on Facebook. Over 14,000 people in there who are interested, who are on the ninja path, who are learning about the ninja path and all the things. And all of our coaches are in there as well. So we can all hop in and collaborate on questions and things that you have. And you're probably going to hear from a whole lot of ninjas when you make a post in there because the community is incredible.
Hopping.
So
Hopping is the right term.
very, very hopping. Like it is lively. It's like walking into a rave for sure.
Now you set the expectation high.
So there it is, man. Garrett, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. Happy to get this episode kicked off. Interest rates, man. So, okay.
Yeah.
We've been on a roller coaster here. Like you look at the last handful of years of what we have been through with interest rates. And it's funny. I find that the highs that we've gone, oh my gosh, it's so high. It's not even close to historical highs. And really the lows have been historical lows, which has made this place that the interest rates have seemed to creep up to go, oh my gosh, they're higher than they've ever been. But it's a really interesting thing, Matt. And this is where it leads us to our episode today is the perception of interest rates and human action about how we approach the marketplace. And it's really been fascinating to watch from our end, coaching agents around the United States, watching tons of real estate transactions happen, hearing about people's hot and warm lists and the activity that's happening in there, to some that are blaming all their lack of inventory on the interest rates, to some of the agents that are super busy going, I don't know what people are talking about. I don't think interest rates are really stopping people all that much. People are doing real estate no matter what. We did see people have the best year they ever had in a marketplace where a lot of realtors blame the interest rates for why the business barely worked. Like, it's been an interesting year of watching how people have handled this and how they've reacted around it. And now we're starting to watch the interest rates drop down a little bit. And we've been seeing it since the beginning, just towards the end of 2023, them start to drop.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious to see what you're seeing out here, Matt, about activity around this, because I am seeing it spur a little bit of energy and movement. But it's funny how our perception of what a good interest rate has changed, which I'm really actually happy to see people own a little bit of a higher interest rate going that's pretty good.
That's the funny part. And apologies if my sound was a little bit off. I just had to swap my microphones there. So that might sound a little bit different at this point. But I will say seeing the below 7 conversation, right? And significantly below 7, like we're seeing rates. Now, at the time of recording this, we're about 2 weeks in advance. So they might be a little bit different when this is released, but probably still, really excited about anything that has a 5 in front of it, 5.99, 5.8. Seeing a lot of people get super jazzed about things like that. 6.5. You think about it though, with the perception, Garrett, it really comes down to a lot of times of, well, what do I have if I am currently in an interest rate versus what can I get? Or what was preventing me, what was eliminating my buying power from having a certain product versus what actually gives me the buying power to now go after that type of product. And I think that's where that perception comes in.
Well, and it's going to be fascinating to watch as people start to perceive what is it worth giving up the interest rate? Like what interest rate is worth them to say, I'm stepping away from it. And I think primarily around refinances, not really about, I think purchases are going to happen way sooner. People are going to be like, all right, that's my interest rate. I'm good with that. Let's roll. And I'm going to talk about that in a second in the comparison that I've seen in my life. But I think with refinance is going to be interesting because we've already started watching people refinance even at the higher rates to pull equity out of their homes to fund a life that maybe they're living outside their means. Maybe they've had some reasons they need to have the money. There's all kinds of stuff that happens in people's lives. But we've already started to watch that cycle start to take off. I was really surprised to hear about refinances, seconds, and HELOCs starting to happen again. But
oh yeah, well, I mean, if you closed at a 7.5, a lot of investors closing at over 8, and you can now refinance for 1.5%, 2% lower. I mean, the numbers play, and when you get to there,
well, that's the good side of it. The other side that I'm hearing, Matt, is people that have that 3 rate or 4 rate and have been living outside their means and now need to pull the cash out of their.
so refinancing upward to that higher rate, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like yay, like we're going to refinance. It's hey, thank goodness we have all this equity in here that we're going to be able to pay things off and like get ourselves out of a little bit of a hole. That's what we're starting to watch.
And I think this brings up what's behind all this, as Gretchen likes to say. Gretchen Adams, one of our great coaches, the thing behind the thing. And the thing behind interest rates is cash flow, right? What's the monthly payment? What are people, what's coming in and what's going out? Because the interest rate is a number that then is multiplied by your loan and all that stuff, which is going to be impacted by how much down, the purchase price of a property. And so when we go, oh my gosh, interest rates are high or they're low or anything, that's one component of everything else that goes into it. Because back when interest rates were, let's say 15, 16, 17 for a mortgage, you could also buy a nice house for $100,000, $125,000. So, you're talking about 15% on $80,000 versus 8% on $400,000 loan. There's going to be some differences in what those numbers look like. And that's the thing behind the thing for everybody is, what is my cash flow situation look like? And I think, Garrett, sometimes people don't even know. They're just like, oh, the rate's coming down, so that sounds like something that I might be able to afford better, when it's like, how can we help people better understand their overall cash flow picture so they can make great decisions, whether the interest rate is 6, 5, or 8?
I think a lot of people get themselves into a lot of trouble because they don't understand the cash flow side of it. They just understand like, it must be a good time to buy a house. We should do that. We should upgrade. We should go bigger. Hey, we should get a car. Why not? Let's do that too, because the rates are so good on cars.
Car loans are down too. I just saw, new car loans, 1.99% are back on the table.
Those are circling back around. Oh, by the way, you want to get deals on cars? I went on a lot the other day before Christmas, and those deals are still there. And I was surprised to see, I think it was $16,000 off of MSRP on a new truck. There are deals roaming around out there right now. Things are starting to creep back around in a different direction. But so for our perception, Matt, I was experiencing this. So for those of you who don't know this, I live in Northern California. California in general is not known for the best gas prices in the United States. So I'm going to throw some numbers out here that might make people gasp, but it is the reality of where we're at. So I remember when we were driving around at high twos, $3 a gallon, maybe. That was really good, by the way. We were very happy with that. We might even complain about it a little bit. It was a little on the high side. But all of a sudden it started to creep up. And I remember driving around town at like $5.50 a gallon on fumes, my car and myself, fuming on both sides. Because I was like, I've got to find gas. It's got to be someplace that's cheaper here. And I remember driving. And the ones that did have low prices had lines out the door down the street. And these other gas companies were just sitting there pretty much empty at like $5.50 a gallon. So we then watched the gas prices go to 6, and then we watched them go to 7, and then we watched them go to $7.99 for regular was the highest that I saw in California. And it was one of those things that, did it stop us? $7.99 a gallon for regular stopped us from driving. That didn't stop us, but it made us all of a sudden start to really go, do we really need to go drive to the store today? Like, it really kind of stopped everything from happening a little bit. So then we saw the gas prices come back down. They just started creeping back down. We got down to 6, like 6.50. Then it went to 6. I remember when it hit like 5.70, a little bit lower than that. And all of a sudden my brain went, oh, we got to fill up. Like, I was like at a half tank and I'm passing by like $5.50 a gallon going like, fill this sucker up. Like, let's top it off. Let's get all the gas we can here. And it was amazing how the perception changed, because it wasn't that long ago I drove all over town. And I remember giving up and going back home and parking my car going, okay, next time I go out, I really have to get gas because I don't think I'm going to make it any farther, to top it off at 550. And I think that's kind of where we're at with the interest rates right now is that we've gone through this cycle. And now that we're starting to watch them come down just a little bit, I think we're going to watch a lot of general population go, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Like, let's do this. And I think we're just getting into it. As Matt said, we're about 2 weeks off of this right now. So we are seeing right now about 6.88 is the national average. I think was what Matt told me before.
National average,
Yeah.
where if you have high credit scores, you could probably get quoted in the high fives, as of today, December 27th. Right.
So I'm curious to see what's going to happen, Matt. I think it's not going to have to get as low as people think it's going to have to get for us to see a pretty good rush of people that are like, that's pretty good. Let's do it.
I think, I would be ready if you're not experiencing it all already. I would be ready for a 2021 like beginning of the year for 24.
I feel the minute it hits 7.5, the agents that I coach were like, oh man, my buyers are stirring again.
I've had people over this, Christmas holiday here talking about how this is the busiest December they've ever seen.
I definitely heard that across the board.
Talking to agents in Austin, they were all freaking out because they'd never seen a recession before, because 2008, they just kind of like went right through it. And they're like, oh, we're back. I'm like, oh, after only like 3/4 of kind of a, tough time, we're back. Okay, cool. Like, we're already back. I think, the gas price thing's a really interesting one too, because this adds into the perception of things. And this goes back to cash flow, because you think about, oh gosh, gas is so expensive now. Back in my day, it was so much cheaper. Okay, but what was the actual cost to drive a mile with that fuel? Because cars have gotten more efficient over the years as well. Even your 2000 car, Garrett, is more efficient than a 1980s, right?
Oh, this is a good point. I have a 1970 car. Keep talking. I'll tell you exactly what the gas mileage is on it.
And so when you look at there's also there's charts, you could go Google this stuff to figure out what was the average cost per mile to drive back in like the 1980s versus today. And it's less expensive to drive a mile today than it was in the 80s. But when we lock onto a certain number and we look at those things, and we use that as our measure of perception, yeah, things change. Because even trucks, right? Oh man, trucks get horrible gas mileage at some of the worst pickup trucks out there are in the 12s to 15 miles per gallon, right?
Yep.
That's outstanding compared to trucks in the 80s, man, when you're getting 4, 5, 6 miles to gallon.
We joke that we're 4 gallons to the mile in the 1970 Blazer.
See, there you go.
Because it just literally, you can watch the gas gauge go down. But so, Matt, it's a really interesting thing that a lot of people, I love what you're bringing up here, because a lot of people don't take all the factors and put them all together about what you're looking at here with day-to-day driving. And you take these hybrids and things like that are getting,
40, 50 miles to the gallon. I mean, gosh.
And you compare that to burning, okay, my actual math on it's reversed. I did it on purpose, just so in case you're curious, but it gets about 4 miles to the gallon. So when you start looking at that, that's painful. Like that I totally get. I totally understand paying today's gas prices, but we're not driving those cars anymore. Like, I drive that car once a year for a parade. That's what I do.
But now with home ownership, it is kind of the opposite, because rates up, prices up, the cost of home ownership has arguably gone up in terms of owning the real estate. But there's also other things that have happened, like more efficient building processes, better efficiency when it comes to heat and air conditioning, but then those prices change. This all comes back to, I love the perception thing. And this is where the reason why I like talking about this, Garrett, is to help. I think if we were aware that there is a perception around it, we can help people break through that, because there's a lot of other things that probably should be considered when people are making a home purchase or sale decision.
Well, and I think the perception of it is that, and this is why I brought up the realtors that I've watched over the last year here, where some of them had the worst years they've ever had, and some of them had the best years they've ever had. And it's funny when you talk to the ones that were just having the worst year they've ever had, very, very, very often combined with that was if the interest rates were just different, things would not be this way.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to that perception. And then you got to look at, okay, well, what is the story that the realtor is telling everybody when they get around and talk to their clients? Are they having conversations that people are actually buying because life changes happen and this is what people need to do and they keep moving forward? Or are they having the conversation like I just had in the grocery store with a friend of mine who I do not coach? I don't talk to her more than about once every 2 years, but we're still good friends. And she basically explained to me how miserable the real estate market is and how difficult it is and how she didn't have, I think she had one double-ended transaction this year and just how horrible it was. And a lot of it was because people can't afford to buy homes right now. And I'm like, it's really interesting to see what side of the story that you want to talk about here.
Yeah.
So,
well, and it's not that that isn't true, right? I mean, it is harder for people to buy homes. That's absolutely valid.
yes.
But there still are deals happening. And as a realtor, and this is what we should have in our mindset is, as a realtor, I'm here to help serve the people and help them get through transactions if they are willing and able to do so, of course. But there's plenty out there for everybody to do.
I'm going to stir up a huge pot here just for fun, but it's like you can get a like-minded group of people together about anything and get them all to believe that a certain way is a certain way.
Yes.
Let's just use flat earthers compared to round earthers. Seriously, like though, if you go get into a community of flat earthers and you try to have a conversation with them about what this planet is or what this thing is that we live on, you will get people that are dead set in their ways and they're unable to see it any other way. Like they are set. And I think this is the interesting kind of dilemma that I've watched, whether it's gas prices or whether it's, the minute that you start to kind of can help somebody see or go a little bit down the path and change their perception on what it is, you can start to see the other side of this. But if they're dead set on that's how it is, there is no change in their mind a lot of times. And I would encourage people, like, look at, like, there were people when gas prices were high, they were like, there is no way to travel right now. We're all just stuck because of these high gas prices. And if you're tricking it in that way and say you can't travel anymore, there's tons of ways to travel. There's tons of ways to still get out and move around this planet and go see stuff. But some people just said, yep, we're done. We're going to be at home and we're going to do different things now. Same thing with these interest rates is that there's certain people that said we can't. And then there's certain people that said, well, can we and how? And then there's certain ones that said, let me show you how. Like, I'll show you all the ways here. And maybe we'll find a place in here that will allow you to be successful in what you want to do. And those ones that were willing to show them a way of how it can potentially happen, those agents I found did ridiculous amounts of business in 2023.
Yeah.
And helped a lot of people through this. But if they had that mindset that there is no, like, people can't buy and sell, they would be in the same position that the other agents were in easily.
And I think that's the key, particularly as these interest rates are kind of the forefront of what people are talking about, is get together with your lender often, right? Talk to your lender a lot and talk about what are the products that are available? What are the options? What are you seeing? Tell me about some of the unique loans that you've been writing lately. Tell me about some of the normal loans that you've been writing lately. I want to be empowered as a realtor with that knowledge that I can bring to my people when I'm talking to them, so that then we can pull them in and have a conversation together and say, hey, you know what? Let me show you how we can potentially make this happen for you.
So a really interesting thing also to think about this, Matt, is that there's a weird paradox that you probably get into. Well, I know it happens now that I'm thinking about it, where if you are actively out there helping a lot of people, you're actively out there talking to a lot of lenders, you're actively out there hearing about all these different programs. If you found yourself get out of the loop of real estate, where you're not actively helping a lot of people, if you don't find a lot of people coming to you looking for help right now with real estate, because maybe we got ourselves into one of these traps that, it's tough for people to buy homes right now until interest rates come down, they can't. We probably didn't go talk to a lot of lenders to figure out what different programs are out there. We probably didn't put ourselves around groups of people that could give us these answers to help our people out. So yeah, Matt, I agree with you. I think one of the best things you can do going into this new year is, if you don't have a great relationship with a lender, go find a lender that you resonate with and sit down with them and go out to lunch regularly, go grab a cup of coffee with them, on a monthly basis, have a standing appointment with them to sit down and say, tell me what you got.
Yeah.
They will do it. They do it all day long. They suck. I know that they suck realtors into this because when I got my license, I thought my lender wanted to be my friend and he just wanted to show me all of his loan programs and everything. And I was like, you lied to me. That's not why we were getting together. Now, I thought we wanted to build a working relationship. They do it no matter what. Be proactive about it with them and say, I want to hear about all your amazing programs you have.
Yeah. This is how you're going to break through the perception. Because here's the thing. Right now, we're talking about, these really cool, quote unquote, low rates that we're starting to see in the high 5s and low 6s. And based on what the Fed's been saying, I kind of think we're probably going to be in that zone throughout this year. That said, they could potentially go the other way, depending on what happens. Like they could tick up at some point and you're going to hear, oh no, I can't do it because interest rates are higher right now. I need to wait for them to come back down. That's the perception talking. And this is where if we can ask great questions and break through that perception to better understand it from the client's perspective and the cash flow, then we can put together a potential solution.
Yep.
Or maybe not. That could be the answer too. But at least you get to walk them through that and find out what the solution may or may not be so that, and like you said, Garrett, too, I think you were saying you're having these conversations. It's going to put you in more flow. It's going to put you in more positions to see opportunities and receive opportunities, which means you're going to do more deals. Like when we say no one can buy a house, when people say there's no one to buy a house, like, well, how many deals do you need to get done to really make a big difference in your year here? 2, 3, 4? Like if that we can go find, maybe we can't go find 100, transactions are down, but can you go find 2, 3, or 4 more?
Yeah,
probably.
Oh yeah. Well, and let's go back to one thing you said, which is, maybe it won't help them be able to move forward and buy a home right now. And the goal of this, by talking to a lender, is not to trick people or force people into going like, oh, maybe we should buy right now. It's very different than, and I feel like I can say this because I used to sell cars. It's very different than...
I knew it was going to go to the car dealership. I knew it was.
It's very different than how am I going to get you to go home with a car today? Very, very, very different mentality. This is about how can I show you all the ways that you can accomplish what you're trying to accomplish here. And if one of them works for you and one of them feels right, I'm here to help that process get from point A to point B. And I think a lot of us just shut down around that in this last year and a half, and just got in this mindset of there is no way, instead of really sitting down and saying, well, let's look at all the potential. And then at the end of the day, and it's really important, Matt, I'm really happy you said this, which is this is not about forcing somebody into or putting them in a position that they're going to be looking back and going, that damn realtor, that talked us into this thing. No. That's not what we're doing. We're giving them all the options so they can make smart decisions. And a lot of people just don't even realize what their options are. I mean, you can talk to the average homeowner there about a 2-1 buy down, and they have no idea what you're talking about. There's the average person that's trying to buy a home right now that doesn't understand what that is. There are so many programs that never get talked about that people are like, I wish I would have known that when I was going through the process of buying a house. Lack of education is what it is. We kind of the lender holds the chips in their hand about, what's going to be offered to this person and how educated they are. Not all lenders are educated very well. And you wonder why you don't know all the programs. And there's a lot of realtors that don't choose to educate themselves around this type of stuff. And then you have these consumers out there going, why didn't I know about that? Why didn't my professional tell me all about that?
Yeah, there it is.
So perception, everybody. That was our thought today with this episode, is perception of what is going on. Matt, do you have anything else you want to add in around this?
No, I think that's the story. I'm sticking to it. So go and dig behind the perception. Look for the thing behind the thing, as Gretchen says.
The thing behind the thing, and realize that for a lot of these people, interest rates don't need to come down very much for them to all of a sudden go, that seems like a good rate. I remember when they were over 8.
Yeah.
Like that literally is what we're working at. I remember when they were over 8. Now there's a 6 in front of it. That feels pretty good. That we're going to start seeing a lot of that right now. And I think it'll be interesting to see when this episode airs, Matt. If you guys don't hear it, it's because something major changed, and Matt and I were like, that episode can't go live. We've only done that one time. We've held off on an episode.
Yeah, that was 2020.
2020, when COVID hit, we had one that we're like, yeah, we're going to wait a little bit.
We did release it, though. We just pushed it out a little
It
bit.
got pushed out, but we're like, we got to wait a little bit on that one. Let's see what happens. But I'm not worried about this one. I think that we'll continue to see them. I bet you by the time this goes live, it'll still be sitting in the mid sixes to maybe high fives.
High five, bring it on, baby.
High five. That'll be the slogan. High five, baby. All right. If I was a lender, I would run with that one.
Yeah, let me give you a high five. Oh, man.
There we go.
There you go. That's a freebie for everybody.
All right, everybody. If you're tuning in, thank you so much. Happy New Year, by the way. Welcome to 2024. And with that being said, if you want to learn more about what Matt and I do every day and all of our amazing coaches that we have for Ninja, check out ninjacoaching.com. You can go to Ninja Selling and click on the coaching tab there. We have this incredible group. Matt was talking about it earlier. 14,200 people, I believe, is where we're at right now in that group. And it is growing every day. And again, amazing. If you have something that you're like, I want to know more about how to do this better in my business, just drop it in there in a question and you will be blown away. If you want to know about marketing that people are doing out there, flow charts that they're putting together, events that they did over the holidays and what their feedback was on it and would they do it again, drop the questions in there. People will give you so much information. And if you haven't had your business plan done by now, get it done. The year started. Get rolling here. So with all that being said, Matt, thank you. And we'll be back soon.
Thank you. See you later, everybody.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about ninja selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.